Hey, I'm Ewan, and today we're going to be installing heated grips on my Yamaha FJR 1300. However, this process is going to look very similar no matter what bike you go to install these on. Heated grips are great for any rider looking to extend their riding season into the colder months of the year by adding warmth where it matters. They're adding safety by keeping your hands warm when controlling the motorcycle, and somehow adding more effective body warmth that makes sense to the uninitiated. There are a few ways you can wire heated grips to your motorcycle. The first and the easiest being wiring them directly to your battery. Some of the more complex ways involve tapping into a pre-existing circuit or maybe an accessory plug on your motorcycle that only draws power when the key is in the on position. The reason you might do this is if you had a set of heated grips that weren't able to self-cancel if you forget to turn them off. We opted for Koso grips because they, among other popular brands, have an integrated automatic shutoff should you forget to turn them off when you leave the bike. For that reason, we're going to be wiring them directly to the battery in this install video. Now I'm going to link all the tools that we're going to use below, but first, let's get started with step number 1, which is testing out our new grips. Go ahead and grab your owner's manual to locate and access your battery. You'll likely need to remove your seat and maybe some side plastics. The FJR is a bit of an unusual case because my battery is located in the front fairing area of the motorcycle. Find the grip's harness kit, which has the cables that connect to your battery. You'll need to add an insulated ring connector yourself. Now, Koso doesn't include this with the kit just in case you wanted to pursue one of the more complex installs I had mentioned earlier. But they're very cheap and you can find them at any hardware store. First, ensure your bike is off. Disconnect the negative, the black wire, first, and then the positive, red wire, second. Install the proper wiring, red to red, black to black. Make sure that you're not cross-wiring. Tighten them down and then go ahead and use the integrated controller on your grips to cycle through the different modes and make sure that they're working. Once you figured out that they're working, go ahead and disconnect them from the battery. We're going to worry about wiring them neatly later on once the grips are installed. The next step is simply going to be removing the grips that are currently on your motorcycle. You can see I've already done this yesterday, but if you're starting now, focus on the bar ends if you have them, take those off, and then if you're one of those people lucky enough to have an air compressor, you should just be able to sneak the air compressor in and break the seal between the grip and the bar. We just opted to cut through the grip, which is perfectly acceptable. The only difference being you can't reuse a grip you cut in half, so if you have an air compressor, start a collection. Next, we're just going to prepare our bars for the new grips. The condition of your handlebars will determine just how difficult this process will be. New grips should fit very snug on your clutch hand side and throttle tube, so it should take some elbow grease to get them on. The last time I installed grips on this bike, I didn't prepare, specifically my throttle tube. It was so tight that I ended up banging them on with a mallet, which is not recommended at all. So here are a couple things you can do to make things a little easier on yourself. Address the glue residue. This will need to be cleaned up. The less residue left over from the previous grips, the easier the new grip will slide on. So you have to get rid of it however you can, whether you want to take a knife to it, sand it, use isopropyl alcohol, or a combination of all three. Now, this can be one of the more tedious parts of this whole process, so just take your time and do it thoroughly. You'll thank me later. So now we're finally ready to install our grips. It doesn't matter which side you start on, but I do have one choice to offer you. Now, it's time to adhere your grips. I offer you a choice. In my left hand, I have Koso's included grip glue. It comes with your set of grips, and it is a long-term solution for a permanent hold when getting your grips onto your bars. But when you go to install it, make sure to be timely, because if your grips are not in the right position on the bars when the glue starts to set and dry, this will quickly turn into a train wreck of an install. In my other hand, I have hairspray. Long found in your uncle's tool shed, it is a great hack for getting grips onto bars and works really well for standard dirt bike grips or rubber grips on your street bike. But I found when installing these in the past, using heated grips and hairspray, after a few days, the grip came loose and it was not the permanent hold that we get from the glue. So what I'm here to tell you is we have merely been presented with the illusion of choice. I would really strongly urge that you use the grip glue because these grips get hot and you want the most permanent hold possible. Choose wisely. Also, make sure that the grips are in the position you want them to be when they are set so that you don't twist or have to bang them into place once they start getting over the handlebars. Before going to install your grips, make sure to throw a rag over your motorcycle to prevent any dripping glue from damaging your paint. Finally, don't use too much glue. A thin layer will do. Too much and it might never dry properly. For your throttle side, I prefer to position the wires towards the front of the bike out of the way and make sure they have some slack to twist up with the throttle. On the clutch side, the only important placement aspect is to make sure that your controller button is in a convenient position. I have mine right next to my instrument cluster and it's facing me so that when the grips are installed, I don't have to remove my hand and can use the button with my thumb. Expect to get a little bit of a workout getting your grips on and positioned correctly. If your old bar ends no longer fit, Koso does provide replacement caps. In the interest of fully maximizing my protection from the cold this winter, I opted to replace my bar ends with these hand guards to keep the cold air off my knuckles and my palms nice and toasty with the heated grips. Now that we have everything installed, the name of the game really is just cleaning up wires and sending all the wires back to the battery so that these grips get power. The kit does not include zip ties, and they are definitely the most effective means of concealing wires. Once we get all the wires cleaned up and zip tied away to where you're happy with how it looks, we're really just going to start putting the bike back together to get our finishing touches done. Make sure there's enough slack for your bars to rotate their whole range of motion without pulling or getting in the way. Also make sure that your throttle has enough play to operate without any conflicting motion. Continue zip tying along the frame lines whenever possible to keep things really nice and neat when in running order. That's under the seat, under the gas tank, keep them out of the way. You want to trace back to places where the wires won't get pinched. This is important because these wires are built into the grips, so if you damage or destroy a wire, you're going to have to order a whole new set of grips. One last thing to point out is that there is a fuse integrated along the wiring of these grips. And if possible, place it somewhere accessible so that if your fuse does blow, you don't have to take your whole bike apart just to replace the fuse. Once complete, replace any fairings, your gas tank, and your seat, and your wiring's complete. So, all in all, depending on how much work it takes to remove your gas tank, remove your seat, prep your throttle tube, de-glue your old grips, this could take anywhere from 30 minutes to a couple hours, so it'll depend on which bike you're planning to put these on. But if you have any further questions, go ahead and click the link, which will bring you to our product detail page where you can see what other riders are saying about the Koso Apollo Heated Grips. If you have any further questions, go ahead and give our customer service team a call. They're all riders just like you, and they're happy to get you set for your next ride. Now, thanks for joining me and talking about the Koso Apollo Heated Grips today. I'm Ewan, and I'll see you out there.